what do you think your role should be? Should it just be guiding investment? Should you be buying assets directly? How do you see your role as automakers along the supply chain?
Sure. As I've shared earlier, our strategy has been to vertically integrate our supply chain, to really work with partners and suppliers throughout the value chain. That gives us a line of sight, the visibility. It helps to ensure resilient and secured supply chain and a sustainable one. And that is through that strategy or that approach, we are working in a variety of geographies, whether from Korea to Australia and Indonesia, driving investment, technology, and know-how into North America, particularly in the United States, but of course, throughout the region, to ensure that we have that competitive supply chain that allows us to launch into this transformation in a strong way. And through that, I think it's fascinating to see, and these bring the new issues into play, is sort of working with foreign government and provincial governments or regional governments in a variety of geographies, starting to have conversations that get into extraction projects, get into the critical mineral processing projects, sort of building out those ecosystems, and of course then the manufacturing and the assembly in the United States.
Yeah, no, I don't have too much to add to that, right? But I contest the notion that the mandate's coming from government. Our mandates in the end come from our customers and from our shareholders. And the things that we need in order to satisfy the needs of our customers and meet the needs of our shareholders is to make sure that we are thinking about diversifying our supply chain. That we're taking to heart the lessons that all of our companies learned the hard way during the pandemic around the dangers of an opaque supply chain. If you would have looked at Ford 100 years ago, so we make the F-150 Lightning, our electric pickup truck, at the same footprint where we made the Model T, over 100 years ago. And if you would have gone, back to Dearborn, back to that factory 100 years ago, you would have seen barges of sand coming up the Rouge River, where we had our own foundries, where we made our own glass to put in the vehicles. We didn't have this disaggregated supply chain that we have today. We did everything ourselves because that's the way you did things. There's an enormous benefit, economically and in economies of scale of that disaggregation of having, first and second tier suppliers that make different things. But we are seeing the necessity to reach upstream now to make sure that we do understand this new component that's driving our business. And so it's the business, it's managing our own risks that is driving our interest in making sure that we reach upstream. We don't control everything, but we can see it, we understand it, and that we're more actively involved. The last thing I'll mention on that point is the environmental standard is going to be incredibly important. So I spend time talking at mining conferences, and they're not used to talking to a Ford or a consumer brand at a mining conference. But the standards, we're going to be held accountable as a Blue Oval for our entire supply chain. So it doesn't matter if some third party is doing the mining. If it goes into our vehicles, then our customers are going to hold us accountable for the labor and environmental standards that go into those critical minerals. And so that's another thing that we've got teams of people engaging on, thinking about, making sure that everything that goes into our vehicles is consistent with Ford standards. So we will be a kind of new, higher maintenance customer, I think, for many companies, just because our brand is by far our most valuable asset that we have, and that's the thing we have to protect it at all costs.
And do you think for both of your companies, for that reason, are you going to have to build out these teams? Because when you think about trying to challenge some of those issues around whether it's sustainability, how materials are produced, what the supply chains look like, even right through to, I think, really fundamental issues at the moment around, volatility and pricing. And we know how much the raw material cost now impacts your ultimate cost of your batteries. So, when you think about that involvement, it's no small task. And I know you already do have sizable teams working on these issues, but to really, address each of the components and address each of the issues in these markets, is this an area that you just see continued investment and scaling of teams to really, get your hands dirty and get involved in these parts of the upstream market?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's happening now. We have teams spending times in parts of the world that we didn't have before, because so many of these opportunities and challenges are new. So.
And to build on that, right? It's the technology and engineering expertise. It's that know-how sort of on the material itself, and then it's the skill set in the policy and regulatory and legislative environment that we also need to have. So it's both working together.
Yeah. So many of the details are new, but at GM and at Ford, the skill sets are. I mean, these are things that we do. We're engineering companies. We're problem-solving companies. So the core competencies, I think, are things that we're well versed in.